Welcome back to yet another NFL Roundtable segment here on The Big Hit. I'll be your host today, Jake Spagnol. Joining me will be Jake Taylor, Will Barbera, Hunter Mitchell, and Joey Chrisman. Let's just go ahead and jump right into it. The Super Bowl just happened over just 2 weeks ago, but we still haven't covered it here. And what is everyone's overall thoughts on the big game?
You know, truthfully, on the big game, it was a little bit disappointing, but I don't think it's because it was a bad game. I think because the last two Super Bowls we've seen previously, the Patriots and the Falcons and the Patriots and the Eagles, those two games were fantastic, probably two of the best Super Bowls of all time. So it's really going to be hard to step it up from that, because the fact that the game last year went from against the Eagles, 0 punts. There were no punts in that game. The losing quarterback, Tom Brady, had 505 passing yards, and that's what the kind of game you want to see. And then this was more of a defensive battle, a coaching scheme, which is great because, I mean, you were still on the edge of your seat because you thought, could the Rams finally get together? Could McVay finally get something going and they make a big play? And you know what? They were driving down the field. It looked to seem like Brandon Cooks had that catch. He had that drop. Goff had that terrible pass for that interception. They robbed Stephon Gilmore of MVP. That was my biggest concern from the takeaway from the game, but I will talk about that later. So that was just my initial reaction.
I agree. I was very disappointed. I mean, it was probably the most boring Super Bowl I've ever watched in my entire life. And you know, it's one of those things. I'm a football fan, so I can appreciate a defensive battle. So it was cool from that standpoint. But like you said, the past two Super Bowls were so much fun to watch. It's especially the last one. And So it's just one of those things where you want to see more, but you know, I can still appreciate a good defensive battle. I'm so sick and tired of the Patriots. I mean, we get it. You've got 6 rings. Can Brady just be done? Like, can he just go make out with his son and just be done already? But you know, you gotta respect greatness, but it's getting hard after a while. So very disappointed, but you know, overall, it is what it is.
I want to disagree with you on the MVP thing. I think Edelman did deserve MVP. I think any time that offense needed a play, any time there was a third down, any time that they needed to get something to ice that game, Edelman was there. And he didn't put up the same stats that some of the wide receivers have in the past, but it was just that big play factor. And Stephon Gilmore did have that one big play, but other than that, you didn't really hear from him that much.
He had a forced fumble.
Yeah,
he had 10 tackles.
He had a couple. Good
yeah, he had like 6 tackles, a forced fumble.
Especially in a defensive matchup, the guy that doesn't even record a touchdown, but he has 180 receiving yards versus a guy who makes several key defensive plays. I agree with Jake on that. I think Gilmore definitely got robbed.
Because the Rams in this regular season, the Rams, they were in the top 10 offenses of all time by efficiency and scoring. I think they were the 5th highest scoring team in NFL history, and for them to score 0 touchdowns and Stephon Gilmore with a forced fumble and interception, the game-winning interception, and then the 10 tackles and then the pass deflections, he really kind of shut down. So that's the only reason why I think that. But obviously Edelman was a huge key offensively.
Yeah, you can't take anything away from him.
Yeah, he had more yards than the whole Rams in the first half. So.
To pretty much go off with he said about it being boring. What makes a game exciting is offensive scoring. You look back at the Rams and Chiefs game. That game had more offensive scoring than pretty much anybody else, like 50-50, like both of them over 50 points. You had Patrick Mahomes throwing for like over 500 yards, like Jared Goff throwing over 400 yards. The Super Bowl was boring. Why? Because it was a defensive game. You need to take a really good defense like the Rams with like Aaron Donald. Then you have Ndamukong Suh, you have Marcus Peters, and Keith Talib. And then you have the Patriots defense, which has a very good coach, by the way. Bill Belichick, one of the best coaches in the NFL, probably ever. And then like you just go at it, and then it ends up being 13-3 at the end, and like nobody's excited at all. But then again, offensive wins games, but defenses win championships, and that's the big thing about it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
That's why the Patriots won, because Belichick, again, Sean McVay, a very young coach, but is also very good. One of the youngest coaches to ever make it to the Super Bowl. Sure. But he's dealing with a legend here in Belichick. So obviously Belichick out-schemed him, took his offense down, didn't let him score more than 3 points in the game, and Patriots won the Super Bowl for the 6th time. Now tied with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and which is as a Steeler fan, I don't really like that. But now we gotta see where this goes from there.
Yeah, that's for sure.
How about you, Spags? What were you thinking when you were watching the game?
Yeah, give us your thoughts.
To be honest, I didn't pay attention to half of it at first because I was. But no, at the same time, I agree. I think Stephon Gilmore should have got it. I think just in a defensive game, when it's that low scoring, it has to go to a defensive player, and it usually doesn't happen. usually always goes for a quarterback. Same with MVP. So I don't take that the Super Bowl MVP and all that stuff into too great consideration. But Edelman, the entire playoffs was really killing it, especially. Who they played before? They played in the championship game. Chiefs. He was tearing the Chiefs up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he and Gronk, especially in the fourth quarter.
Again, keep in mind about defensive wins championships. They held Tyreek Hill to like what, 2 receptions?
I don't think he. I think he had one.
1 or 2 receptions. Tyreek Hill, one of the fastest guy in the league, only 2 receptions. Belichick, like I said, the best coach the NFL has probably ever seen, 6 Super Bowl champion.
Yeah.
Like again, his defense. There's not like big name players besides Stephon Gilmore like the Rams have, but the way he runs it. I guess the McCourty twins, but the way he runs his defense is unfathomed to anybody in the NFL.
And
as you can see,
I agree to that. But to that point, I mean, they did win championships with Patricia as defensive coordinator, and Patricia left, and then Patricia out-schemed Belichick defensively and beat him this year, and that's what's been happening. You see Mike Vrabel, also on the coaching staff for Belichick, gives him a hard time coaching him, and I think that it's exciting to see the Flores, because he's now in Miami now, the defensive coordinator that just won the championship, just won the Super Bowl with the Patriots, and I'm exactly to that. Yeah, he did make the jump, so I'm so excited to see, because everyone says Belichick calls his defensive plays, but then like you look at it, and then Belichick has trouble scheming up games against his former assistant coaches. So it's going to be very exciting next year to definitely see that matchup.
Sure. And I think the biggest thing from the Super Bowl is that possibly might have been Gronkowski's last game.
Yeah.
I think he's got at least one more year in him, but we're not sure.
He better go out he should go out. Their Patriots are 6 for 9 in Super Bowls. Gronk's a get. Retire now.
I would love to see him in the WWE. I would love
if there's anything he would go to, it would be the WWE. Because look at that guy.
It would be great.
What do you think his WWE name would be?
Just Gronk. Just Gronk. He's already got one.
What's up? My name's Rob. I'm here to fight. But moving on, so we know obviously free agency doesn't happen until the middle of March, but teams can still deal, just the paperwork can't be done. But the first thing we heard for sure is that Joe Flacco is leaving the Ravens, is getting traded to the Denver Broncos. Now, how do we feel about that? Because now Lamar Jackson's, he's the man in Baltimore.
Well, I will say this. Joe Flacco has never been elite. He won 1 Super Bowl, but that doesn't mean that he's one of the best QBs in the league. I mean, he's maybe top 15, if that. So I don't really.
Maybe he's pushing it. I mean, like
15's maybe pushing it.
Yeah, exactly.
But then again, you saw what Lamar Jackson did and the games he played. What is it like? Like he won like the 8 of the last 10 games he played.
Something like that.
And then he beat the Chargers.
Carried them to the playoffs.
Not in the playoffs, but in the regular season.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Carried them AFC North Championship. I think Lamar Jackson's going to be a threat in the AFC North and for the rest of the league because he's a dual threat. You've seen him in college. You've seen him in the NFL as rushing. He had the record for the most rushing yards by rookie QB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he didn't even start every game. So
Not even every game.
That is the thing that worries me though.
Exactly. As a Steelers fan,
because everyone's like, oh well, he's like Michael Vick. It's like, yeah, but Michael Vick had a cannon.
Exactly.
So I want to see the arm strength. I want to see the accuracy, and I want to see decision making on display throughout a full season before I make a trade like that, where you have a guy who your system works with, like Flacco. I'm not saying they made the wrong move. I'm just saying if I'm the Ravens, I want to have a backup plan in case he's not fully ready to take on the reins. So, they clearly have something with him. I just want to see him take that step before I make a move like that. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
For both teams, I'd love the trade. I think Flacco, his biggest issue, I feel, is that he hasn't been surrounded by any offensive weapons at all in his career. I mean, 2 years ago.
He had Ray Rice for a little bit.
For a couple years, but
Exactly.
Yeah, Jacoby Jones.
Jacoby
Yeah,
Jones.
he had a running
He had
back.
Rashad Perriman at some point. Mike Wallace, he was a little bit
Perriman
shy.
was-
Perriman was a little bit. I mean, he had his moments.
Pro Bowl running back is what you're saying.
But
For sure.
The best weapon he's had in the last 2 years was a 30-plus wide receiver and Mike Wallace, who hadn't done anything since he left Pittsburgh. I mean, now he's going to Denver, where he has Phillip Lindsay. He has possibly Emmanuel Sanders if he sticks around, and a bunch of young wide receivers with that team.
Cortland Sutton.
Yeah.
He's got great potential.
I feel that it was a great move by the Broncos. They bring in a guy who he might not be an elite QB, but in that system, in that team, they don't need to have an elite QB to win games. They have a good defense.
They
They have
defense,
they have a really good defense. They have a really good running back who was a rookie last year, and they have a decent offensive line and good wide receivers.
Yeah.
For Joe Flacco, this is like the perfect opportunity for him to show what he can do. And with the Ravens, you cut cap. I mean, they have now their QB's on a rookie deal. They can go out. They have C.J. Mosley's a free agent. They need the money to sign him.
They need the money to sign him.
They have a couple more. They have key free agents that they need, and they also need to go out into free agency and sign people. They need a running back. I think Mark Ingram would be a good running back for them, and
That's a good look.
a wide
for sure.
receiver. And they need to put people around Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
But they didn't have the money to do that if they kept Flacco.
Yeah. So I agree with that. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
But I agree with that. You convinced me there. That's a good look for the Ravens. I don't think it's good to keep Lamar Jackson, but the fact that you might as well just invest in him now, get rid of Flacco, because I mean that's really your best option. But we saw what Lamar Jackson did when the actual pressure was on him. The Ravens had the easiest schedule in the later half of games. He only, like you said, he won 8 of those last 9 games. I'm pretty sure all 8 of those teams all had a losing record. I don't think any of them made the play except the Chargers. That was a good win. But what happened when he played him again? He had a 0.0 passer rating going into the third or halfway through the third quarter of that game because he's not a big time player. As for a Steeler fan, I'm grateful because Joe Flacco has a winning record against matchups against Ben Roethlisberger. Thank goodness. He's also won a Super Bowl more recent than the Steelers, so I'm just going to then Ben.
Yeah, baffling.
So it's not baffling to me because Ben just can't get the job done.
You watch a lot more Steelers.
But on that case, I guess it's interesting to see. It's so crazy how Case Keenum, how he just went off with the Vikings. You bring Kirk Cousins in.
System.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about. Yeah, it's a system.
That's crazy.
It does. It does.
Yeah,
It
he
doesn't
went
make
off
sense to me.
until they met, the eventual Super Bowl champions. Championship.
It was at 42-9.
38-7.
No, there it is.
No, my only issue with the trade is, I think if you're the Broncos, you gotta draft a quarterback this draft too, because he's shown he's not, he's got the one Super Bowl, but I think his best years are behind him.
Yeah.
I think he's a good stopgap quarterback for right now. They have the 10th overall pick in the draft. Denver does. If they go and they draft a Kyler Murray, a Drew Lock, depending on where Murray goes, obviously, I think Haskins probably won't be there at 10.
No.
But if they draft someone like Drew Lock, you let him work with Flacco. Even hopefully Flacco's a little more willing to work with him than he was with Lamar Jackson. And you develop him and you let Flacco do his thing. Hopefully you get some wins. Maybe you get in the playoffs. Who knows? But it all depends on the scheme. But if there's any Broncos fans out there that think that Joe Flacco is the solution for the next several years at quarterback, they need a reality check.
You're gonna get let down, dude.
That's for sure. But since he mentioned the Steelers, and most of us at least from here over,
Literally everyone but me. I'm looking by myself.
But we could talk about all the drama that's going on with Pittsburgh.
For sure.
Officially today, as we're filming, I found this out today, that the Pittsburgh Steelers are not going to give Le'Veon Bell a franchise tag. So come March, he will be a free agent. And he's talked about wanting to stay in Miami, go to Miami, but I don't think that's where he's going to go. But I'll open it to you guys. Where do you think he's going to go?
I have to say this. Even me, I was proven wrong. All season long, I was saying, you know what? I was surprised we didn't need Le'Veon Bell. James Conner was a fantastic fit. And at this point, any Steeler fan who says that, you're completely wrong. The Steelers are the second to last ranked rushing offense in the NFL. The second worst rushing offense in the NFL. We have the best offensive line in the NFL, and that's a straight proof, and that's a fact. I mean, you can argue 2 other teams, but still, you have elite quarterback, 2 elite wide receivers, and your rushing offense is second to last. You don't make the playoffs without Lev Bell. That kills them. I mean, you can't deny that. You have 1 season without Lev Bell. You don't make the playoffs. You have a terrible rushing offense. You're screwed. The Steelers are screwed. And I think he's going to go to the Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts really juice up their offensive line this past year. Who was even there? Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack. Yeah. He had fantastic run in the playoffs. Naheem Hines. Yeah. So the fact that we even know those guys' names is a testament to the offensive line in Indianapolis.
Well, it really goes back to Quentin Nelson. He had an amazing season.
Exactly.
Continue,
but yes, no, you're fine. Yeah. So exactly, the fact that these guys are household names that we're talking about them, they shouldn't be. Lev Bell's going to come in there and he's just going to tear it up.
I don't know if you're going to see Le'Veon Bell get the contract that he wants. I mean, he couldn't, to be honest, and I think you guys would agree with me because you're all Steelers fans. He kind of acted like a baby. It was a little ridiculous. I mean, he keeps getting franchise tag, and there's no way that Art Rooney and the Steelers front office weren't saying, look, we want you here. We just don't want to give you the ridiculous amount of money that you're requesting. And I think he just completely had a temper tantrum over that. Apparently, he's gained a bunch of weight over the over the season. Yeah, Joey said
he's having the Eddie Lacy syndrome.
Yeah, so I think you really gotta, I don't think he's gonna get the money he wants. I do see him go. I think the Colts and the Jets are are the favorites for him. I've heard the Eagles tossed around in there. I don't know what to think about that. I don't think the Eagles have the cap space. Indianapolis and New York absolutely do. I think those are the two heavy favorites. But, just seeing, I think he would be a perfect fit in Indianapolis. I mean, the three-headed running back in the backfield with Le'Veon Bell, Nyheim Hines, and Marlon Mack behind that revamped offensive line. Andrew Luck after the season he just had. T.Y. Hilton, Eric Ebron, that'd be a crazy offense. So I could definitely see him going there.
I don't think the Colts are going to give him the money he wants. I think the Colts are looking at it as Marlon Mack just had a heck of a season, and even though it would be nice to bring in a Le'Veon Bell, is it really worth the money to bring it in if you have a running back who just succeeded? I mean, how much more can Le'Veon bring to that offense than what they already got from Mack? I think two teams to look out for who are looking at they're struggling and they're playing in the Patriots division are the Jets and Miami. I think those are two teams that are going to look at this offseason and say, hey, there's a lot of weapons out there and we need to beat the Patriots. Brady's getting older. This is the perfect time for those two teams to jump in here and use the money that they have, and especially Miami because that's a go-to destination. I mean, you look at LeBron going to LA, Miami's the LA of the East Coast.
Yeah.
So
LeBron also went to Miami.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a place where free agents are going to want to go. So I look for both Le'Veon and Brown to go to Miami, or at least for Miami to make a strong run at them. And then I look at them to also draft Murray. I know I'm probably jumping a little bit ahead, but if they draft Murray and have Brown and Bell in that offense, can you imagine the type of damage that offense could do?
Yeah.
And that's a good segue because since he's wearing the Brown jersey, he can start this next
By the way,
one.
this is probably the last time I'm going to wear this.
But as we know, Brown has been talking with Art Rooney II, the current owner and president of the Steelers, and working with everything, and they both agree that they want to change of scenery. So where do we see Brown going since you're wearing his jersey?
Honestly, the first team that comes to my mind is the 49ers. Because the tweets with, George Kittle, recruiting Brown, and then, they need a receiver to go along with Jimmy Garoppolo. And then, but beside that, maybe, I'm going on a limb here, but maybe the Raiders. Because that, John Gruden, he's a risk taker. He traded Khalil Mack and Mark Cooper for first-round picks, but if he does that with the Steelers, then he can get Brown. But then again, if they somehow get Kyler Murray, who played with Antonio Brown's cousin, they can have already chemistry. It's ridiculous. Beside that, then maybe the Dolphins, like you said, Miami. He lives in Miami. He has a mansion in there, so it's like a 10-minute walk to the stadium. So if I was him, I'd be just wake up, go to the stadium, and go to practice. Simple as that. Maybe beside them, the Cardinals as well. Larry Fitzgerald, who's 40?
Getting there.
He's very old. They have a pretty weak receiving core with Larry Fitzgerald. Josh Rosen, he needs weapons if they're going to be good on offense. The Cardinals may be thinking about drafting Kyler Murray as well. If they can do that, then the same chemistry as well. But if they do draft Kyler Murray, then they're probably going to trade Rosen. But either way, it's either the 49ers, Cardinals, Miami, or Raiders the Browns are probably going to go to.
I throw Indianapolis in that mix too.
I would too, but like I said, you said you said Bell would go to the Indianapolis Colts. I don't know if they're going to give Bell the money and Brown the money because you got to get. I don't think you can't have both. They're both two. They want money. They're both superstars. Unless you have I don't know, $80 million in cap space, you're not going to get both of them.
The other thing is I don't see Indianapolis. I think they're really content on the team that they have, and I don't think they want to give up draft picks. And I don't really know that there's any player that they can really offer up other than T.Y. Hilton that the Steelers would really benefit from. So maybe a Marlon Mack if they thought they were going to go out and get Le'Veon if they were content on doing that. But I don't think they would make that decision without knowing that they were going to get Le'Veon. So I don't really see them. My sleeper team is the Green Bay Packers. would it not be amazing? I know you're an Aaron Rodgers hater, so just hear me out.
All right, here you go.
Would it not be absolutely amazing to see an offense that consists of Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb, and Antonio Brown?
That's like a fantasy team.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy Graham is there, even though you guys might not have known that because he had the worst season of his career last year. You know, I thought that he would have a great year there, so I'll bite the bullet on that. But I think that would be amazing. I think Green Bay. I think they're trying. They really want to prove, because after this whole Mike McCarthy, Aaron Rodgers saga that happened last year, they want to prove that they made the right decision by getting rid of Mike McCarthy. I think they made the right decision because Aaron Rodgers, I think, is a once in a generation quarterback talent. But I would, I think that makes the Packers incredibly dangerous if they get a weapon like that for Aaron Rodgers to get the ball to. So that would be my pick. But obviously, San Francisco, the Jets are the favorites. So I mean, I think you gotta, obviously you're gonna see those teams be involved. I would love to see Green Bay try and get their hands wet on this.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna go on an absolute rant right here. So anybody.
Yeah,
relax for a minute.
All right,
everyone just relax. We're just gonna
it pains me.
Get ready for the vein.
There's a vein in Jason that pops. So go ahead.
It absolutely just pains me and disgusts me to see Antonio Brown leave the Pittsburgh Steelers, because Antonio Brown is the most talented Pittsburgh Steeler I've ever seen in my entire life. I can't testament to the players that won 4 Super Bowls back in the 70s, but I have a big bone to pick. I'm just gonna be all over the place because my mind's just rolling with so much anger because it's been so built up on me because I haven't been able to get it out here on the big hit for so long. Anyway, my biggest problem with this I have with the Rooney family. The Rooney family, guess what? Fun fact: the Steelers have won 2 Super Bowls in the last 40 plus years. You're not doing something right. You were doing something right 40 plus years ago. You're not doing anything right now. Listen, you had Big Ben Roethlisberger. You've had the best offense. You've had 10 Pro Bowlers on your stinking team, and what do? You don't do anything. It's Mike Tomlin, it's Big Ben, it's everybody else but AB. Listen, AB has he wasn't right when he sat out. He wasn't right when he did what he's tweeting and all that stuff. He's completely immature about that. But if you're Antonio Brown, put yourself in Antonio Brown's shoes. So year after year, you're statistically the most consistent wide receiver in the league. And this season, I have 15 touchdowns in the year, well over 1,000 yards, over 100 receptions. Your starting quarterback has 16 interceptions, and he's calling you out. I mean, you guys obviously have beat, but he has 16 turnovers, and he had, 3 fumbles? So, no, it was 20. He had 23.
I think he had like 5 or 6.
5 or 6, yeah. So, he had 23 total turnovers from Ben Roethlisberger. Juju Smith, I'll get there later. Your star running back doesn't even want to play for your team. And he sits out he turns out $72 million, sits out. Your Pro Bowl kicker misses all those field goals. The backup running back coming in here fumbles the ball in key situations in games, and then the young gun wide receiver that's supposed to be your replacement fumbles the ball the same game when you had 185 yards, 2 touchdowns. It was 4th and 19. Who makes a sideline catch clutch? Antonio Brown. Who fumbles the ball? Juju Smith. Who gets voted team MVP the next day? Juju Smith. If you're AB, you're sitting there. AB didn't have 1 turnover all year long. Accusations of him running the wrong routes, maybe. But all season long, you saw Antonio Brown. It's on me. It's on me. It's on me. Ben. It's on AB. It's on AB. Ben Roethlisberger's had beef with Santonio Holmes, Martavis Bryant, Antonio Brown, Todd Haley. The list goes on and on. I think there's a clear reason. I think it's clear who the drama is, and I don't want to see.
And the clear reason is, like Antonio Brown even said this. Ben has an owner mentality. He feel like he can call out anybody he wants. And Ben even said himself, "I think you're in the right." Do you think you're in the right to call anybody out?
Okay, I don't think Ben Roethlisberger earned the right to call anybody out. I agree. Ben Roethlisberger is a very talented quarterback, and he's fantastic. He makes the plays, but I'll say Ben Roethlisberger loses the Steelers as many games as he wins them. You see it year after year. He can't beat the Jaguars. He can't beat the Patriots. He can't beat Oakland because it's in his head. You have to be able to beat these teams. You have to be able to overcome adversity. And granted, he does make fantastic plays, and he does make in that New Orleans game, he stepped up. He was a fantastic quarterback. Juju Smith fumbled the ball. You hate to see it, but you can't throw a game-losing interception. And you can't throw a game-losing interception in the end zone against Denver. You can't lose to Oakland. You can't let Mike Tomlin tell you sit out. You have to have a passion to drive for the game. That's a flow for the game. If you're Ben Roethlisberger, if you want to be the owner mentality, you say, "Hey, I'm coming in and playing this game because I'm better." But I just can't keep going on and on and on.
Just to take away from that, what I love is Big Ben had beef with AB over that play that you mentioned in the Denver game because AB ran the wrong route in the end zone, he threw an interception to a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
It's like if that happens, you can't blame anybody but yourself. You threw too low a ball. The 6'4", 300-pound who has a 2-inch vertical picked you off. This is no one's fault but yours. I felt the need to throw that in with Jake's rant.
Yeah.
I'll just give one more little thing here for the Steelers fans. It pains me because I always see the Steelers fans like giving AB so much hate. Like, you never won these Super Bowls. Listen, he is the most consistent player on this team. He's the hardest working player. You hear everyone say it, but everyone just loves Ben. This is my biggest pet peeve. Everyone loves Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger got suspended 6 games for sexual assault in 2010. Since then, he has 0 Super Bowls, 0 accolades. He has 126 interceptions thrown, 5 playoff wins. You can't tell me that you can't redeem these. Like, you can't forgive. Everyone's giving AB so much hate, and for what? You sat out 1 game. Like, you look at it. I just can't believe it. I just want AB to succeed, not with the Eagles, not with the Packers. I don't think I could bear that.
No.
I could never come back on this show. Thank you guys for letting me do that.
No problem. I gotta get the angry.
That was good
We
confession.
needed to let off some steam.
Yeah.
We all told him we needed it.
Now I feel like I might have to
Always
keep
down
this.
to Alexis. But, all right, one last one, and then we're going to get into a little bit of AAF. Oh, never mind. Elliot said, forget that. Going too much overtime. But, hey, thank you all so much for joining us, listening to Jake's rant with most of which I agree with, but that's, that's all I'll say. I agree with Jake.
We'll get that.
Yeah. But hey, thank you so much for joining the NFL Roundtable with Jake Taylor, Will Barbera, myself, Jake Spagnol, Hunter Mitchell, and Joey Chrisman. Thank you so much, and stay tuned for some content here on Daytona 500 and SUVs and motorsports. Stay tuned.